Hi, my name is Iris. Currently, I am part of the in-house staff at the Omni Champions Gate outside Orlando, Florida. I've done a bit of everything from theater to radio, television, live events. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in theater, and my first job was in radio, so you never know where you're going to end up in this. I'm part of this community because I believe in education, and during this time, I believe everyone can improve their knowledge to get more gigs and do more things and just be more flexible in the new whatever it is we're going into. But I appreciate you're here. I hope you learned something and have fun.
Hey, there we go. Sorry about that, folks. Having something incorrectly set in OBS during the OBS episode, why not? So thanks for joining us on AV Tech Talks. Welcome back. This week we are looking at OBS. We're doing a deep dive with Rocco, who was the winner of our OBS Face-Off last month. So I guess on the panel, show of hands of anybody who's using OBS. Cool. I'm currently using it to stream this show, so that's kind of exciting. I know, Keith, you've been streaming a lot lately in the evenings. You're using OBS to accomplish your streams?
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
Great. And you find it nice and easy to use?
It's very intuitive and has never failed us.
Nice. Yeah, I think, I don't know if you caught the episode that Rocco and Bodhi faced off, but I think you're going to be impressed if you did miss that. Who else is using OBS? Sorry. Iris, are you using OBS right now or no?
Nope. No, not right now.
Cool. How about you, Don?
Yeah, we're gonna use it tonight after I get off this. Right now, I'm not using it, but I'll be using it in about 2 hours.
Cool. And we know Chris obviously uses it all the time.
Every day.
And Omar, you're more of a vMix person than a...
It depends on the client, but yeah, I've been doing both vMix and OBS a lot, so.
Jeff, how many cloud instances of OBS do you have?
Just one. One and about a dozen or more vMixes, and then several other BizVector Pros. That's my go-to. But OBS is it's a tool, another tool in the toolbox.
Yep, absolutely. So with that, I mean, Omar, Chris, actually, Chris, you want to go over the house rules real quick, and then we'll jump into Rocco?
Sure, let's get this started. We go live every Monday night at 7 p.m. on Monday. As I said, you guys know this. You guys are here. We thank you for being here. As always, thank you for coming back. Joining the Zoom room and getting involved is all about either being live on Facebook. If you want to join on the panelist side, there is a link that Ed will paste in chat somewhere sometime tonight, letting you know the information on how to do that. It usually comes in middle of the show. So due to the nature of streaming, we are always a little bit behind on your comments and questions and things that do come through. So just sit tight. We will get through to them. Do not worry. The next one is about being the sharpshooter in the room. We don't know everything, even though we like to try to act like we do half the time. But yeah, that's not how this works. That's why we're here. We're here to learn off of each other and ask questions and get them answered. And again, we do not know everything. So if there's something that is said that you know more information on, absolutely hit us up. We'll be more than happy to go through that. Like I said, this is a whole live Q&A session. So basically it's going to be explanation, questions, answers, explanation, questions, answers, a little bit of show and tell, a little bit of how to do this. And of course, as always, with this shameless plug, don't forget to follow AB Educate on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And without further ado, we'll kick this off, right? Yeah, he kicked my ass in the episode that we were on. So I do bow down to his supremacy when it comes to that. He is definitely corporate and quicker than I am. I am the gamer faux pas of OBS. He is the man, the myth, the legend. Rocco, let's go.
Thanks so much for that introduction. I want to keep things pretty loose today. I do have a very scripted OBS Ninja demo, which I'm really looking forward to. but I'm going to feel like we can hold off on that for a little bit and go through just some little tricks and stuff like that with OBS. I think what makes OBS really cool is that because it's open, there is a lot of community resources out there, and especially in the form of plugins. And plugins can really unlock the power of OBS. So I wanted to go through some of my favorite plugins, show you how to do that. I wanted to show some really cool tricks on how to troubleshoot your OBS issues, and then get into an OBS Ninja demo. If you don't know what OBS Ninja is, it uses WebRTC to make peer-to-peer connections to bring in low latency, high definition video from remote guests. I have used it with people all the way over in Germany with sub 100 millisecond latency and very, very high resolution. It's really impressive stuff. So that's going to be really cool to go through.
I was using it with somebody in Australia and had very low latency. So it's definitely a nice little gadget to have in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, it works really well. So and if you do have any questions, go ahead and let me know and we can walk through that. So this is OBS all blank. This will not be a primer with OBS. We're going to assume that most of you know at least the basics of how to get scenes and sources working. But what I did want to show was different things with plugins. So I have a list of plugins here, and I post it into the chat, and then Ed or somebody can share that with the people over on Facebook. These are a list of plugins that I really, really like. So to go through some of them, like Lorien Board is what I actually use in lieu of a Stream Deck. I have a Stream Deck. I like Lorien Board better. It's just so powerful. It allows me to do some really cool effects and really cool tricks with just controlling OBS. It works using another plugin called OBS WebSockets. OBS WebSockets is a way to communicate with OBS. It uses messages in JSON format sent through an OBS through a WebSocket connection. That sounds very technical, but it allows for really, really high levels of control of OBS is essentially what it does. And different things use this. So they had an episode earlier about BitFocus Companion. BitFocus Companion also uses WebSockets in its OBS module to control OBS. That's probably my favorite plugin because there's so much power you can use, so much power behind it to do all these really cool things. So for example, like me controlling my camera like this, that is actually using WebSocket commands, you know. Can you full screen presenter? Is it not coming through clear enough this way? Or am I spotlight right now? Can you spotlight me? Would that help the Zoom people? And yeah, that'll probably be better. Great. So then another one that I really like that I want to show off is Move Transition. And this one is so cool. On the surface, it's not that great, but I'll go ahead and go to it. What it looks like it does is it allows you to do transitions that has all the sources move. Okay, so when I go from this scene right here that I'm in, that's showing my desktop, and I go to my camera scene, you see that I move. So that's a move transition, right? And so that by itself is cool. But that isn't really what makes me excited about it. So with Move Transition, you can do some really neat stuff. So I got this blank OBS here that does have Move Transition installed. To install these plugins, you can go and just click on the links, and it gives you instructions on how to install them. This is actually made by a guy named Exeldro, and he's definitely one of my favorite plugin makers. He makes some of the very best plugins out there. But if I add a source in here, I'm just going to add a color source just as a blank color source. We're going to make it, 200 by 200 pixels big. So I got this little color source here, right? Then I'm going to go ahead and if we're going to show what it does for a move transition, we can just add a move transition here on the scene transitions. We're going to add another scene. I'm just going to, sorry about that. I'm going to duplicate this scene and then move this over here. And you'll see that when I go to between the two scenes, it moves. So that's the move transition, right? But I want to do something more with this. So if I go to the scene and I right click the scene and I go to filters, okay, and I go over and add a filter, and I look at some filters I have 3 new filters here that aren't normally there. This is what, again, these come with that Move Transition plugin. I have Move Source, Move Value, and Move Transition Override. all three of them do really, really cool things. Move transition override I can use to take my color source here and change the settings it uses when it transitions. So I can make it when it appears in the scene, I can make it so that it doesn't use any kind of zoom override, no zoom override, or no position override. And then I could actually make it fade up instead. So I could have like a bunch of objects that are moving and then say, this object I don't want to move, I want it to fade. So that means I can have source-specific transitions, which is just so cool to me. I could have two things move and one thing fade up, you know, in essence. And I'll show some examples of how I use that later. If we go ahead and get rid of that, the other cool thing you can do, if I add a filter called Move Source, what I can do is choose the source here, scroll down to where it says transform and click on get transform. What that does is it captures the values of where it is, how big it is, any crop values, all that stuff. It grabs all that stuff, okay? Then I'm going to scroll down some more and make the start trigger be enable and disable. Trigger on enable and disable when the fade is done. I can choose a timing for this. So my custom duration, let's make it 1 second. And it's in milliseconds, so it'll be 1,000 milliseconds. And now, if I'm going to go ahead out of the zoomed in, when I'm going to move this someplace else, when I have this filter get enabled, it's going to move to that position. So what can that do for us? Let me show you what I have used just that simple transition to do. I'm going to close this scene collection down and open up a different scene collection that I have. So this scene collection is something I use for demo purposes. I have Omar already in it because he's using an OBS Ninja link. Hi, Omar. So we're going to get through that later. But what I've done here is I've created animated lower thirds using that little plugin, just that little plugin right there. So I can turn them on and they animate in. I can turn them off, they animate out. So like that's just mind-blowing to me. And then I could add as many as I want. And so what I've done is if I go down to my scenes here, I have scenes for all my guests. I have scenes for group shots. I have some isolated shots here. I have, let me zoom in this so you can see a little bit better. I have my lower third pre-comps right here. And I put PC on them. That just stands for pre-comp because I come from a video editing background. So pre-comp makes a lot of sense in my mind. So if I click on that, I have, let's go ahead and go to Omar's actually. I have the lower third here, and I can go ahead and change the name to Omar. Let's go ahead and change the title to AV Educate Host. Okay, and I already have the AV Hero here. Now I'm just gonna turn on this white solid so we can see the background, and you'll see that I also have a color source here that I have set to half transparency. And to do that, I just have my color source right here. Go to filters, and you'll see I have a color correction filter on it, and I have it set to opacity 50, just to make it look a little bit nicer. Close that down, turn off the white. So I have that as a way to compose the entire thing. So I composed everything into that scene, right? Now in OBS, you can use scenes as sources. All right. So then I have these other scenes down here that are the animation scenes. Okay. These are the animations that when I animate these lower thirds on and off. So I have these other scenes here. So if I go to 2, which is Omar, you can see that it already updated because I added the scene as a source. You can do that by just right clicking, going to add and adding a scene as a source and then choosing what scene you want to add. Then on the scene, not the source, because the way that these move source transition works is that you have to apply it to a scene, not a source. I go to this scene right here, which is the lower third animate, and I go to my filters, and you'll see that I have 2 filters, LT on, LT off. That stands for lower third on, lower third off. And it's just this move transition or move source filter. and I did the exact same thing that I showed you earlier, where I moved it to a certain place and captured the location. So when I click on, if I'm going to turn off my magnify, if I click on the off, you'll see that it moves. So what I did is I put it to that position, then I went over to get transform, clicked it, then I have the transformation. And then the LT on is right there. And to make it a little bit cooler, what I went ahead and did, so I have all those, I have 10 of them actually, so I can just keep scaling up on my shows. If I have more and more people, I could just keep adding them. And then in all the scenes that Omar would appear in, so guest 2 right here, I have guest 2 as the isolated shot, and then I have the lower third animate scene as a source. So it's 3 deep there. So this scene has the composition, has the animate scene in it, and then that has the composition of the lower third in it, if that makes any sense to you. And what I went ahead and did is if I go to settings and go to hotkeys, I can filter LT_on, and then everywhere there's a filter that's called LT_on, I gave it a hotkey of Control 1. You can see them here, all the way down. So whenever I press Control 1, all the lower thirds will turn on. And then if I go to lower third off, I did Control 2. But wait a minute, what if I want to control them individually, you may ask, right? I thought of that. What I did is I had my buddy, he sent me this really cool custom doc. And this custom doc uses an HTML file and the power of WebSockets to monitor filters and control them, okay? So if I go to view, docs, custom browser docs, you'll see that I have it added in here. I just gave it a name. And then I gave it where it's located, okay? In my computer, the file, where it's located on my computer. And then I can bring that up by going to docs and clicking on that doc, and here it is, it's right here. And so if I want to control, I'm going to bring up a 4-shot real quick. We've got the 4-shot here. If I just want to bring on Omar's, I just click on LT2 on. And this file is also part of my plugin things. It's on the bottom. It says OBS Filter Monitor. So that is, if you can get that there, you can download it. It's available with anybody. You have to do some HTML editing to make it work, but the instructions are very clear. And my buddy Leb did a really good job of making this thing. It works really well. He didn't make it for this purpose. That's the cool thing. He made this filter monitor for people that want to monitor specifically audio filters. So the idea is, hey, do I have my compressor on right now? I don't remember if my compressor's on. Well, you can have this as a dock and you can see whether it's on or off. Okay, because the way that it works is if I go to this lower third animate right here and go to the filters, if you look right here, when I turn this on, it tells you when it's on and when it's off. So it's a way to monitor it, but it works backwards too, where you can just click on it and it makes the filters turn on and off. So I thought that was a really cool tool. And like I said, he didn't make it for this purpose, but I think it pairs so well with that plugin, Move Transition, that I thought it's a no-brainer to use it with it, you know? And then I was talking about source-specific transitions. I use that a lot here. So if I got this 4-shot here, if you watch this lower third here, when I go to one of these isolated shots, you see like these transitions are happening like that. And then if I go from here to the 3-shot, I'm going to bring up everybody's actually. Oop, bring them ball on. And if I go to the 1 and 2, you'll see that this one right here is going to fade instead. So that's a source-specific transition right there. When I go to the 3, I just thought it was kind of nice instead of having that lower third go to move, to have it fade. I just thought it was a nice touch. But that shows you what I mean about source-specific transitions. I had 2 things moving and 1 thing fading. So that's a pretty, that's a lot of information, I think, already in terms of like the powers of plugins and what you can do and how on the surface, you may not have like many ideas of how you can use it, but if you really start digging into it, you're like, wow, I can do some really cool stuff that's probably not even intended. So with that, do we want to open up the first, like, do we have any questions that we want to answer?
Yeah, we can jump into a couple questions. I'm going to unspotlight you there for a minute.
Okay.
Great. So, oops, sorry, I hid my question thing. Well, actually, the questions we have so far are not exactly on what you were just doing.
If we have questions about other stuff too, I'm happy to shoot off the hip.
Yeah, well, Jordan asked, how do you have the zoom follow your cursor? So that magnify thing that you're doing.
Yeah, that's something I figured out like yesterday. It's a thing called, let me look up what it's called. I don't have it as part of my plugin yet list because I don't add anything to my plugin list until I've tested it long enough to say this is something I like. Okay, but if you look it up in the OBS plugins, it's a tool called Magic Window. Okay, so Magic Window kind of runs in the background of your OBS and like of your entire computer. You don't even see it. You don't see the window. It doesn't. It's in the, what do you call it? The taskbar. It shows up in the taskbar. If I go to toggle my Magic, it's right there, Magic Window. And you can, there's settings for it that you can change in terms of like what it wants to capture and what it doesn't capture. And then in my OBS, I use window capture to find Magic Window. So I'm capturing Magic Window. And then in my Lorien board program, I talked about Lorien board before. So I have a tablet next to me, and on the screen it looks like this. And when I click on this toggle mag thing, it turns on the zoom in and zoom off. So that's how that works. And this is, I have pages. So there's pages of controls here where I can do a bunch of different stuff. But this is the page that I use mostly. If you look on my, so like right here is where my I have like a Galaxy Tab A. It's like $100 cheap tablet. I have that running Lorien board and able to control stuff right there. And it offers high levels of control.
Yeah, wait, now on another page, I saw a coffee button. Do you have something that turns on your coffee maker?
No, that brings me a cup of coffee, actually.
Seriously?
So, yeah, it brings me a cup of coffee. So I turn off this background and bring up this background. This is what my apartment usually looks like. And then if I click on the coffee button, then it summons me back when I had my COVID beer. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Have a good day. And then they go away.
That's awesome.
And then I have a bunch of different clone videos of those specific.
And where's Ori at so he can customize his little background that he's got going on?
Yeah, Ori, who's usually here, does something similar. He's got, him creeping on himself in his background in his apartment. That's pretty cool.
That's fun. I love it. That's cool stuff, Yeah, the power of, you can do a lot of cool stuff with OBS if you have the desire to do it.
Jordan had also said he can't wait to hear more about OBS Ninja and integrating with vMix. So that's interesting. I don't know if you are. Are you integrating OBS Ninja with vMix at all?
I'm not, but you can do it. And the nice thing about doing that is OBS Ninja doesn't have an 8-caller limit. So you can use OBS Ninja with vMix because it's just a browser source. And vMix can do browser sources. So it'll work. There's a few things that probably won't work if you do it like that. I haven't tested it. But we can get into that. And there's also this, OBS Ninja has this thing called the Electron app. And with that, anything that can do a window capture can use OBS Ninja. So that opens up your possibilities there too, because the Electron app works really well, actually. The Electron app technically works better than OBS.
Interesting. Okay. So if you have a link to that or something, we'll share that so people can check that out.
When we get to the demo part, I'll send that. That way they know what I'm talking about when I send it.
Perfect. Cool. We did have a question that's unrelated, but maybe you can help with this. From Olympio. Hello, I'm very new to OBS. I started using it for my church, and I'm using 2 identical cameras with USB extenders over Cat5. My problem is how to communicate with the cameras to do zoom, pan, tilt. Try to install, I think he meant to write the PTZ optic software, but nothing. Please help.
Okay,
And,
so
yeah, I think he's trying to control the cameras in OBS.
Yeah, that's something you can maybe be able to do a plugin for. It would probably be easier to do. It depends on what kind of cameras they are. If they are true PTZ cameras, then the PTZ plugin would do it. If they're not, there are other things out there. For example, Bar Raider, and I don't know where they come up with these names. It's this guy who makes plugins for the Stream Deck, has a plugin that lets you control Logitech cameras specifically, and it works really well. So you can hit one button, and one thing about the Logitech cameras, like the C920 and the C922, is that they are famous for not keeping their settings. Every time you start up your computer, you have to redo the exposure, you have to redo the white balance, all that stuff.
Yep, I gave up on doing it.
Yeah, so like this camera isn't a C920, but this camera over here is a C922. This is a C922. So if I hit one button on my computer, on my Stream Deck, you can see that it changed the settings and whatnot, and looks a bit better now. That is an automated thing to make my camera actually have the correct settings.
Yeah, my Brio does the same thing. It doesn't really hold the settings.
Yeah, that thing will do the same thing as well. Logitech Hub also helps with keeping the settings if you use that. But I like the Bar Raider plugin for the Stream Deck.
Cool. Oh, and yep, they posted a link to that in the chat. Thank you. Richard asks, has anyone tested between OBS Ninja and vMix Call for comparison on this point?
It's a good question. I would love to do that. I'm not much of a vMix programmer at this point. I need to learn it more than I know. But yeah, it's something I would love to do. I mean, they both use the same technology, so I imagine the results are going to be similar. You know, there is a way to use OBS Ninja with Android specifically. If you have an Android phone and you're using OBS Ninja, if you set up a password on both ends, you can control the zoom and focus control remotely from OBS Ninja, which is kind of a cool trick. It doesn't work on all Android phones, but it does work. I've tried it. Like, it's weird. I don't think we're going to show a demo of that, but it's kind of a neat trick that you can look up.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, you can use your scroll wheel to zoom in and out, and then you can hit down Control and then use your scroll wheel, and then it'll change the focus remotely.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was gonna add just not exactly apples to apples here, but as far as the OBS Ninja and the vMix Caller, on my end when I got in, the process to get there was the same, and the outcome is clearly the same as far as quality goes between what I'm seeing here, and I don't see much of a delay on my side from the Zoom call or the other side. So, and vMix is pretty good as far as everything goes on the Surface side. Everything looks pretty much similar, just a different link, different link, same thing. I'm wondering, like, on the intricacy side of it is like, does going through Safari versus Mozilla versus
you want to use Chrome. OBS Ninja is going to be the best on Chrome. It will work on the other things, but Chrome will give you the best stability. Yeah, there's certain things like that for vMix too. Certain browsers, which again is Chrome, gives you better audio video quality than the other two. So like those are little intricacy things, but I mean, comparing it from the surface level, to me they were pretty similar as far as vMix and OBS. We had a question about my background thing. Was that like my clones? Is that you're talking about? Do you think that they were talking about the backgrounds?
I'm not sure.
I'm just using.
Raymond, well, if you can clarify what you're. Yep. He's asking about that background thing with your clones.
Okay, so like it's a very similar thing. Remember I was talking about I'm going to actually open up my other. Let me just open up my other scene collection real quick and go to here. All right, so we have this little square here, right? And essentially what I'm doing with my clones is I have a still image that is just a still frame from the video, and then I'm playing a video over that still frame. And so I'm using Lorien board to unhide the video essentially. So if I add a media source right here, I'll magnify that for you, add a media source, we'll call it clone, and then I'm going to locate the file, and it's going to be here, And it's going to be in my backgrounds folder and my content. So then I have all these video files of the different people. I'm going to bring in my Explorer, I guess, and press open. And I'm going to have it so that it closes file when inactive, restarts playback when source becomes active. And we don't need to do hardware decoding. You can decide if you want to do that or not. That just means it's going to decode on the GPU instead of the CPU. And that should be good. I'm going to make sure it doesn't loop and press OK. So really all I'm doing is using my Lorien board program to unhide it. So I just tell it to unhide this, and then the file plays. That's all I'm doing. I do add a little quick fade to the beginning of it, so you can actually fade up stuff and fade stuff down using Lorien board. Because what you end up doing is you're animating a if you go to filters real quick, if I go to filters, you're animating a color correction. So what you can do is, I have a color correction here. You can animate it with a couple different ways. So I was talking about that move source transition earlier. There's another thing that comes with that move transition called move value. If I click on move value, Lorien board, it's a program. There's a link to it in my plugins. So I have this move value here. I'm going to click OK. We're going to click on the filter and tell it to select the color correction. Okay. Then we're going to go down to setting and go to opacity. All right. And make it 100, and we can do a custom duration of, let's say like half a second. So we'll do 500 milliseconds. Don't need any end delay. The easing is fine. Start trigger will be activate. Let's see, enable and disable. That's the one I like to use. So when you enable the filter, it plays, and then it disables the filter so that it's set to trigger again. And you can actually link these filters. So you can make like another move happen at the same time or next. So you can have complex moves. So maybe you have something fade up and then it moves, So you can do complex animations using these filters. It's pretty cool. And we'll just click close on that. Oh, and actually I need to change the color correction to opacity 0. Close. And then you'll see that it's the clone. That was on the clone video. So if I play the video, you won't see it. I'm just going to play the clone video. It's going to be invisible. And then when I click that, it faded up. Do you see that? So you can actually animate filter settings using this. You can use this with a blur filter. You can use it with some kind of like 3D rotate if you wanted to. Any kind of filter that has any kind of like number that moves, you can animate using that specific filter. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome.
So if we're good on questions for now, the next thing I want to get into is actually going to be troubleshooting OBS.
I think we had one more. Sorry.
Okay. What is it?
It was, where did I lose it? Of course I lost it. So what you were talking about, Google Chrome specifically, or any Chromium-based browser?
Chromium. Chromium, because OBS uses Chromium. It actually isn't using the newest version of Chromium, which is causing some issues with OBS Ninja. But as soon as OBS gets off their butts and updates it, that's going to resolve those issues.
Got it. And that was about it. Rich also had said if you're using PTZ optics cameras, they have a dev-made plugin for control in OBS. So that was back to that earlier question.
I feel like what I would end up doing is if I had PTZ cameras, I would probably operate it with something else. And like I'd find out what the language is that controls them. And then I would operate both OBS and the cameras with other things. For example, I really get into Node-RED, and like Node-RED can send out anything, So I would try to control the PTZ cameras with Node-RED and then control OBS with Node-RED as well, because Node-RED can send out WebSocket commands Like I can actually show you something real quick. I have a Node-RED patch right here. This is something I wrote. And what this does is it allows me to control OBS using OSC messages. Now there's a couple plugins you can download, but I didn't like any of them, so I made my own. So I can take QLab, for example, and send the OSC message /scene/ then the name of the scene, and then it will take that scene, and I can change. I got like commands for moving sources. I can change volumes. I can like fade a volume up, fade a volume down for a different source. I can do all that stuff. I've been using this actually for shows, and it works really well. But this would be something that I would probably end up using, is something like this, and then I would operate the cameras and OBS using this.
Just to jump in, Rocco, so you're saying you're using Node-RED as more or less a macro firing software at that point?
It's actually more of a translation software. So like in this instance, I'm not operating anything from Node-RED. I'm sending OSC commands to Node-RED, and then Node-RED is sending commands to other things. So I'm using something like QLab or Isadora to send OSC commands, or even Touch OSC, or a BitFocus Companion, which can send OSC commands.
Right.
Because the thing about BitFocus Companion and OBS is they did a shitty job. It was horrible. They did such a horrible job of the OBS commands, because all they have is very, very basic control. Yeah. Now, it's because they're doing a lot of stuff, and I don't blame them. They gave us what we needed, but not what I wanted. So you can use something like this and then use BitFocus Companion's really, really great OSC support, because the way they did OSC is amazing, like A+.
Yeah.
And then I can do whatever I want, So, for example,
Node-RED, are you firing multiple things with Node-RED, or are you just using it as a one-to-one patch translation point?
No, I'm using it to fire multiple things.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking is when I equate this to macros and other software.
Yeah.
It was being able to send out multiple commands at once. So that's cool.
So that's the other thing. The Stream Deck software, if you try to do WebSocket control with the Stream Deck software, it has it.
Yeah.
Well, what happens, it doesn't do anything simultaneously. You say, like, let's say you have to like turn on 5 filters or 5 visibilities, and you just put them all in a row without any delays. It's not at the same time. It happens one after the other. If you do it with BitFocus Companion, it does it all at the same time, for whatever commands. And with this Node-RED patch, it also does everything at the same time. Or with Lorien board, for example, which is my Stream Deck alternative, it does everything at the same time. So you can actually have simultaneous moves. The other thing I made with this Node-RED patch was this Zoom OSC to OBS. If anybody's heard of Zoom OSC, so like this one is an auto cropper. So it takes messages from Zoom OSC and it auto crops scenes to create isolated shots of everybody in the Zoom gallery in OBS.
That's pretty handy.
Yeah, it works pretty good.
Your resolution ends up dynamically changing all the time, though, and if people are dropping and coming in, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not the best solution, but it's a solution. We used it on a show earlier this year at Marymount Theater. I'm an adjunct professor there, and they wanted to use Zoom OSC, so I said, okay, let's use Zoom OSC, and this is the solution I came up with. It worked.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad solution. I mean, better than some other things that I'm seeing, or just dealing with dropouts of people in the gallery. So,
which is why I want to use OBS Ninja for the next one. So yeah, but with that, let's go on to troubleshooting, which is a really cool subject. So something that people don't really realize, that OBS actually has really easy ways of troubleshooting stuff. So if you just go up to help, which is a great place to go when you're having issues, and you go to log files, and you click on upload current log file. Now, you really do want to be streaming when this happens, because OBS will gather more information if you are streaming. What will happen is a window will pop up, and you can tell analyze, and this will give you this window. It'll open up a browser window, and it will analyze your log file and let you know whatever any issues you have. Now, this OBS is set up so perfectly there's no issues, and that's kind of boring. So what I did is I got some other log files that people have sent me so that we can look at them. So this is somebody who was having issues with this computer. So I told him to do the trick with analyzing the log file. Popped up this, and he was able to actually send me the link too. You can just copy the link and send it to somebody, and then they can look at it. And if you want to like upload a specific log file, you can just go to this website and click on File Upload, and then you can choose a log in your log folder and actually analyze that specific one. So we go down here and we see we have a lot of issues, right? One was the critical issue that they're recording using the MPV or MOV recording. Honestly, that's not that big of a deal. The reason they tell you that's critical is that if you have any problems during the recording process, you'll lose the entire file. It is definitely recommended to use MKV as the format for recording. It still uses the same codec. It's still using H.264. The quality is exactly the same. And OBS has a option inside of it called remuxing that allows that it's just changing metadata in the container. It's not actually re-rendering the file. So you don't lose any quality when you remux from an MKV to an MP4. So you can just, go to an MP4 afterwards, because none of the programs out there like MKVs, right? My mother is calling me on Zoom right now, so I'm getting buzzing in my ear. Sorry. All right, there we go. And so yeah, that's what you can do with changing to MP4s. But let's go through some of these other warnings that are actually a little bit more serious.
She really wants to talk to you.
Oh, are you getting the buzzing too? I'm sorry.
Well, we're hearing the Zoom ring.
I see. I'll fix that so that you can't hear it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Bring her in as an OBS Ninja call, and we'll just talk.
Oh goodness, that sounds like a nightmare. All right, so we have some other warnings that are a little bit more serious. One is that this person was using an integrated GPU. You can do simple stuff with OBS with an integrated GPU. It's not the biggest deal, but OBS really does shine better if you have a dedicated GPU. Like the things that I'm doing right here with this like blur effect, you're not going to want to do with an integrated GPU. It's not going to look right, and it's going to just have a bunch of rendering lag. It's not going to be good. The other one was mismatched refresh rates. I had never seen this issue before. This is a cool one. And so if you scroll down, it gives you details about each one of these errors. It tells you why you shouldn't use an integrated GPU and why you shouldn't use a mismatched refresh rate. And it even has instructions on how to fix it. So you don't know what's going on with OBS. You do this log analysis, they will tell you how to fix it. It's so great. And so this one, they were running all their monitors under different refresh rates. So if they're doing window capture with OBS on one machine and on one monitor and trying to capture on another monitor, it was causing a lot of issues. So we just had them change the refresh rate and it worked. And then we have some other information. Not admin is not really a big issue. It tells you right here that you can ignore it if it's not causing you any issues. We've got some information about dropping frames, and there is a difference between rendering lag and drop frames. So I keep hearing about people who will restart their OBS because they're dropping frames. If you're dropping frames, restarting OBS isn't going to fix anything. It's because your network isn't fast enough. You're not able to upload the frames fast enough. So you need to look at, and it tells you right here, drop frames and general connection issues. It's telling you that it's going to be your network that's the issue. Rendering lag is different. This one says that the GPU is maxed out and that OBS can't render the scenes fast enough. That's because of the integrated GPU. And then we have a 2.1% encoding overload, which is caused because of the CPU being overloaded. So really, this person is using a machine that is not really up to the task, And it tells you some general performance and encoding issues. And so, yeah, that's one of them. We have another one right here. Has some different issues. This person has max audio buffering. This is something I see a lot, especially with people who are using lots of NDI feeds out of OBS. If you're using the NDI plugin, for some reason, I just think that the back end of OBS doesn't handle audio as good as maybe it should. And this can happen. And it has also an issue with if you have too much CPU load, you can have audio buffering issues. And if you ever have streaming with OBS and your voice turns robotic, this is probably why. And then we have a non-standard frame rate, which is kind of interesting too. And then if we go down, it gives us some information about what might be causing this. You see, it says here, keep an eye on your CPU usage. Non-standard frame rate, it's telling you maybe you should consider streaming under 30 FPS or 60 FPS. And yeah, so that's some really good examples, I think, for OBS log analysis and how easy it is.
Yeah, no, that's great. And Jordan from Facebook just said, wow, I wish every piece of software had that sort of log analysis.
And the thing is, everybody who's use OBS, they don't know about it. People don't know about it for some reason. I don't know why. It works so well.
Yeah, no, it's very in depth, and it's like it's for free software, and it gives you free analysis on how to fix whatever problems you're having. That's I know a lot of people, some people in this panel who charge a lot of money to tell people what's wrong with their systems. So that's pretty awesome. So what else do we have, Rocco? Because right now I think everyone is hasn't picked their jaw up yet to think of questions to give us. So
that's fine. Well, I think
what else can you show us?
We can start the OBS Ninja talk, I think, unless we have specific questions about, I mean, there is some like basic things that people should know. For example, like how do you, like the hotkey stuff. Like if you go up to edit and you go to transform, there's a bunch of hotkeys here that people don't pay attention to. You can open up the edit menu by pressing Control E. You can reset the transform by pressing Control R. Fit to screen is Control F. Stretch to screen, Control S. Control D is center. And then there's a couple that actually they don't tell you. For example, if you have a source selected and you press F2, it allows you to quickly rename it. You know, so that one's really great. And of course, another really cool one is if you grab a corner and you hold down Alt, you can crop it. And if you don't like snap, like where it snaps in the corners, you can't get it to fit right, hold down Control. And it disables snap while Control is held down. Like those are like very, very great time-saving tips. And what I actually have done is I put all those hotkeys on my Stream Deck so I can just press a button and it centers it. You know, I can click on Edit Transform and on my Stream Deck and it brings that up. And the other thing is bounding box types. So if I press Fit to Screen with Control F and I try to then crop it, you'll see that it doesn't work as well anymore. That's because the bounding box has changed. So if I open up my editing menu right here, you'll see that it says bounding box type, scale to inner bounds. And the inner bounds has been created to be the size of the frame. It says 1920 by 1080 is the size of the canvas, right? So if you want that green line that makes cropping easier, make sure that's always set to no bounds. And then you can just scale it manually if you need to have it be wherever you need it to be.
Yeah, that tripped me up for a while. Every time I would try to crop things, I was like, why does this not behave like a normal piece of software?
The green line is so much easier to actually do. And then if you wanted to do something that's really, really minute, like you really want to get in there and see what's happening, like let's say I'm just going to add another color source real quick. And we're going to call it red line. We're going to make it red. And we're going to make it width 10 by 1080. And then I'm going to center it. And I'm just going to go ahead and add this scene as a source into this one right here. So it's going to add scene. I'm going to add this other scene. Just as an example, I have that video on here. I'm going to turn the video off. Let's delete it. Okay. Now let's say that I'm in this scene here and I need to crop to that red line and it needs to be pixel perfect, right? So I'm going to go ahead and crop in there. Oh, is it right? I can't really tell because I can't get close enough. Here's a really cool trick. Right click on your canvas in the gray area and then go down to preview scaling. Okay. Toggle that mag and then choose choose canvas instead of scale the window. Just choose canvas. What that does is it scales your canvas to the size, to like pixel, to actual raster size. And then what you can do is hold down your space bar and it gives you a little hand, and then use your scroll wheel and you can zoom in and out. So now I can zoom all the way in here, and then I click and drag to move my canvas around and get over to this little bit right here, hold down Alt and get the crop perfect. And then I can scroll back out. That saved me so much time, and it makes my workflow way, way cleaner by being able to do that. And then if you want to, you can go ahead and move preview scaling back to scale to window, and it will scale to the window again. So yeah, that's a fun trick.
Yeah, no, that's that one's really cool. I forget one of the guys at the webcasting company had showed me that, and forgetting corners and stuff is really cool. And I know
I think most of those tricks that you're learning are trickle down.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Exactly. Well, and I know I realize now where Doug learned all of his shortcuts this week. He was the man with shortcuts. So that's
yeah.
I see where he got it. But no. Let's keep trucking on.
Let's move on to the OBS Ninja presentation.
Awesome.
So I'm really excited about this. I went ahead and made a presentation in OBS because, of course, I did. I'm going to close this dock. And let's go to full screen it by clicking that button. And so, what is OBS Ninja? OBS Ninja is this free tool that this guy made that allows you to use the power of WebRTC to send video from a remote guest into OBS. It's low latency, and it's usually pretty high quality. All right. Cool thing about it is that it's peer-to-peer. It's not going through a server, and that's what really helps it be so low latency, is that it's a connection going from directly to peer-to-peer. So if you're using WebRTC and OBS Ninja on a local network, it's not going through the internet. It's just traveling through your network. 'Cause it's, like I said, a peer-to-peer connection. So you can have a low latency video coming from a phone or something like that. Works pretty well. You can use it to have multiple connections that all go from multiple people all into OBS. And what's really powerful about it, and it's like people will open up OBS Ninja on the website, they'll go to obs.ninja, and they'll try it out, and it will work okay, but it won't work great. And it's because they didn't dig into it, because there is a lot of power behind it, but you have to know how to use it. So where the real power comes behind it is in the creation of the links. All right, the links that you hand out to the people that are sending you video, and the links that you're using within OBS. Okay, the basics of using a link that you're sending to a remote guest is this. If we have somebody trying to join, if there was a post in the Facebook with an OBS Ninja link, don't click on it. That was shared accidentally. It's already being used by Omar, so you won't be only one person can use that link at a time. So Omar is using it right now, and we can if somebody wants to join with OBS Ninja later, we can probably hand out some links for that. So this is the basics of a link that you would send to a person to send the video to you. obs.ninja / push equals some name. The some name part is the ID. All right, it can be whatever you want it to be. I think it has a limit of 25 characters that you can go up to, and you wanted to make it unique because you can't have two OBS Ninja links that are the same, because the first person that's using it will get precedence. So you want it to be unique, you know? So I usually just add some keyboard smashing at the end of a link just to make it unique. And if you use the OBS Ninja website to create the link, it will create that push ID for you, all right? The view side looks like this. OBS Ninja / view equals, and then the ID, all right? So let's go ahead and try that. I'm going to close that down. I'm going to come in as a guest. All right. So obs.ninja / push equals some name, just like I wrote before, right? This is what your guest is going to see if you're using the very, very basics of the link with nothing special attached to it. I can choose to share my camera. or share my screen. I want to share my camera, right? Then we have this coming up. It's going to give me an error saying that the camera's already used. It can't start the video. That's because it's trying to use the video, my camera that I'm using in OBS right now that you're seeing me on in Zoom. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to choose a different camera. I'm going to use OBS camera. This is a virtual camera that you can use. It's a plugin you can use in OBS that allows you to add filters to sources that makes them appear as webcams, essentially. So that's how I'm getting my camera in there. And then I can choose my audio source. For now, I'm just going to choose no audio. That way, it's fine for demo purposes. When we do the demo later, we'll have people use actual audio sources. And you can choose what speaker you're using too. I'll choose the speaker as being that guy right there. If you click on this gear right here, you'll see some more information. You can choose max resolution, which will send a 1920 by 1080 or close to it, depending on hardware. You can choose balance, will send 1280 by 720, or smooth and cool, which will send 640 by 360. I'm going to go ahead and choose balanced for this purpose. And get rid of my magnification. I'm going to click start. And now I am sending video via WebRTC, and it's not being received by anybody yet, but it will soon. And you'll see that I have some other options down here. I have a little chat bubble that I can use to chat with people if I was in an OBS room, which I'm not. But you can also use it for other things. We can go through that later. I can turn my microphone on and off here. I can turn my camera off and on here. And if I got any of my settings wrong, I can click on this gear and change to sharing screen, change my camera source, change my audio sources, and whatnot. So that's the basics of what you see on the viewer side, on the push side. So now let's go ahead and get OBS into OBS Ninja into here. So I have the link right here that I'm going to just go ahead and grab the link right here. I'm just going to drag it into OBS. All right. Just drag it in and drop it. And it's going to give me a little window here. It's going to say, you have dragged a URL into OBS. So I'll automatically add the link as a source, continue. And I add it. And there I am. 1280 by 720 video using WebRTC to get it into OBS. It's that simple of getting a video in. And now let's go ahead and show some really cool things with it. So if I go to the next one, that this scene is showing, I'm going to go ahead and make this, well, actually it's fine this way. On the left side here, that is the push side. I'm just doing a browser window capture of my Chrome window and just cropping it to show it. And then I got the viewing side in OBS. You'll see that there's like this red line. You see the red line going around the push side? This is really, really cool. So in OBS, if I take the view side, the OBS Ninja link that I have in there, if I hide it by hitting the little eyeball, that red line disappears. The viewer knows when they are live in OBS by seeing that red line.
So it's a tally. It's doing a tally over the internet.
Yep.
Awesome.
So it does need to be triggered before it works. So if they aren't getting the tally light, just go to the source and just hide the source and then unhide it, and then the tally light will work. But you know, it works pretty good. So that's like the basics of what the viewer is seeing, or what the guest is seeing, and then how to get it into OBS. That's like the very simplest of ways. And a lot of people can use just this and nothing else, and it will still be great. So for example, like let's say you want to have HD video go into OBS, but you really like the way that Zoom works. A really cool trick is to use some kind of program like Snapcam or ChromaCam, or there's a few other ones that takes a hardware webcam and turns it into a software webcam. So with like Snapcam, you can download Snapcam and you can choose your actual hardware webcam. And then you can use Snapcam to send that video source to multiple places. So in Zoom, you can choose your camera as Snapcam, and then in OBS Ninja, choose your camera as Snapcam. And you can have a group chat that's using Zoom in its ease of function to be able to talk to each other, but then OBS is getting HD isolated feeds. And then you can do all kinds of nice mixing and make it look really nice. And you can stream that to YouTube or Facebook Live or whatever you want. And that would be like the simplest version of using OBS Ninja, right? Without any bells and whistles. But I like bells and whistles. So let's go ahead and talk about bells and whistles. So, like I said, the basics.
Wait. You missed the boat. I thought you were going to have something pop up with a bell and a whistle.
I'm sorry. That's missed opportunity. Okay. So I was saying earlier that the basics. Oh, yeah. Chris has a really good example. He's doing exactly that in his Twitch stream. So he's going to show, if he can, maybe he'll show that to us later, because I gave him very, very little help in getting that set up. But the result is amazing. So, and he's got 10 people, 9. He's bringing in 9 callers.
10 including myself.
So 10 including himself.
But I don't have to use the OBS Ninja, so it's 9 that I'm functioning on.
And if you can do simple math, vMix Call can do 8 callers, and Chris is doing 10. It's 2 more. So anyway, this is the basics of the links. We have, the basic, just push equals some name. That's the basics, right? So let's go ahead and see how we can augment this link to do cooler things. So if I add at the end of the link just the simple and sign plus webcam, then when I open up the link as a viewer, it doesn't give me the screen share option. If you want to simplify things for your remote panelists so it doesn't confuse them, add and webcam to the end. So let's go ahead and look at that real quick. So I've got my obs.ninja / push equals some name, and then we just do add webcam. And it just brings me straight to share your camera. It skips the part where it says, do you want to screen share? The same thing works is if you go to here and you say, and screen share. Now it brings me to an option for screen sharing instead. And it skips the webcam. So you can have a specific link that you send to somebody that says this is for screen sharing. And then you know that it's going to be a screen share that you get. And you can just walk through the instructions here to get a screen share to work. And it works. It works pretty good.
And what resolution will that do?
Whatever you set it to. So if you click here, I can send it to 1080 high definition, 720 balanced, 360 smooth. So you can send a 1080. It's, I think it might have to do with your monitor size. I think it might send differently depending on your monitor size. I would suggest to also make sure that your guests have, fast enough internet to actually send this kind of thing. And there's some tools out there that you can use to test
through OBS Ninja does depend on the monitor that you're using, because I had an instance where somebody had a 4K monitor. They were able to send me the 4K feed from their monitor. So it's dependent on the sender's monitor specs that the GPU or whatever the information that the computer's processing is going to send.
And so there was an easy fix for that, Chris. If you don't want to receive a 4K signal, all you have to add is at the end of the link and scale. I'm sorry, we'll get to that part later. I'm gonna have an example of that, but it's a really cool trick on how you can actually change the scale that you're receiving. Because it's a peer-to-peer connection, the link that you put into OBS has a lot of power, and you don't always have to change the link on the sender side to change what they're sending you. We'll get to that. It's pretty cool.
So you're saying you can actually push across certain settings from OBS to the remote? That's powerful. That's really powerful.
Yeah. So here I just talk about the screen share. Now let's look at some more options for push. This is on the push side as well. If you know that the person that's connecting is a Luddite and doesn't know how to, I want them to send 720, I don't want them to send 1080 because I know their internet isn't amazing or whatever, then you can add and quality 2 to the end of it, and quality equals 2, and then it will try to send 720 instead of 1080. It isn't dependent on hardware. So some cameras can't even send 1080, so it won't even try it. but you can also request specific heights and widths. I'm not going to go through all the link settings because there are a ton. You just need to go to the wiki and read them up. I'm just kind of showing how you can augment the links using some of these simple settings. And these are the more commonly used settings. So just adding and quality equals 2 will make it so that they don't even have the option to change it. And I'll show that real quick. So if I go to here, and we're just going to say at the end of the link, and quality equals 2, press enter. And then it's going to have me share my camera or screen because I don't have and webcam at the end anymore. And you'll see that gear is gone. I can't choose any of those settings for quality because it's automatically going to default to that 720 setting because I added that and quality. All right. I like that one. That one's good. Labels, another really good one that I actually like to use. So if you're using an OBS chat room, which we're going to get to later, the label function will name you in the chat room. And there's a couple different options. You can say and label and then equal and then actually write in what the label needs to be. Or you can just write and label. If you write and label, then when they click on the link, they can enter their own name. So they can enter whatever they want. To show that real quick. So I'm going to leave the and quality equals 2 and just add and label and press enter. And you'll see the first thing it does is ask me for my display name. And I can enter Rocco, press OK. And you'll see on the top of the browser, it says Rocco. And if I enter the chat room and send chats using the room function that we'll get through later, it will label me as Rocco there. And it's used in a couple other places as well. Okay. And then you can combo these to add as many different functions to the links as you want. So in this example, we have the label as some name. We're saying it's webcam. We're saying we want 720. Now, what about the side that you put into OBS? This is the basics of the link. The view equals some name. This is what it goes into OBS as a browser source. Now, what if you really like WebRTC, but you're saying, hey, Rocco, I love WebRTC, but I'm sick and tired of the old VP8 codec. What I really want to get my hands on is some VP9 action because I think it's superior. Well, that's really easy. Just add and codec and whatever codec you want to use. It supports VP8, VP9, or H.264. A lot of iOS devices will default to H.264. Not a great thing. WebRTC really shines with VP8, VP9. This is just a codec type. The default codec that WebRTC uses is VP8. VP9 will give you better quality using less bandwidth, but is more CPU intensive. But man, does it give you a really nice picture. So that's how you change the codec. This is on the viewer side. In OBS, I can say what codec is being sent to me. I can receive the video from somebody. I can give them the link and get the video from them. And I look at it and say, man, I really wish this video looked a little bit better. Add VP9. Done. The video is going to look better. And then let's say that what I'm getting from somebody remotely is, instead of just a webcam, maybe it's a camera that is filming sports and it's a lot of fast action movement and stuff. Well, I need more bit rate because OBS Ninja defaults at like 2,500 kilobytes per second. If I add and bit rate and then equal, I can set the bit rate that they're sending me. So it defaults at 2,500. It maxes out at 40,000. And I don't see why anybody would be using 40,000, but maybe you have all the internet in the world and all the bandwidth and you can actually handle that. That'd be great. But you know, if you want some high quality internet.
I'm just watching Jeff bob his head and say, because he does have all the internet in the world.
40,000, I want 40,001.
Now, if you're using cloud-based instances of OBS and doing this with an Amazon
that's crazy
cloud instance,
crazy talk.
Like it would work. It would work really well. Like it would work really well. It would be tight. I would love to try that. But yeah, that's an easy way to increase bandwidth if you want to just get better quality, and both sides can handle it. If both sides can handle it, do it.
Now,
And then
Jordan asked us, can OBS Ninja do higher than 1080, like 1440 or 2160?
Yeah, it will send whatever your camera can send. So whatever you can send, it will send. And there's a tool you can use. I'll look at the tool real quick.
So even if you pick one of the, I guess if you don't pick any quality, it'll just take the max resolution that you're sending.
It defaults to the balanced setting. If you don't choose a setting, it'll default to balanced.
So then if you were using like a higher resolution than 1080, how would you do that with the settings? Because I only saw those 3 resolutions was 1080, 720, and 360.
Well, you can request specific settings using and height and width, and it will try to send those. And if your camera is able to send it, it will. But if it can't send it, it'll fail. So you have to know what your camera can send, and you can use this tool right here, test.webrtc.org. You click on that, choose your camera, choose your audio, click on the test button. It'll tell you what resolutions you can send. So that works really well. And I think that the OBS Ninja people made this. I'm not sure. It looks like something that they would have made. And then there's this other really cool thing called and scale. So if you had that problem that Bodhi had, that somebody was sending a 4K signal, and it's like, oh, I can't handle this 4K signal, just and scale to the viewer side, and then a percent. So if you want it to be 50%, add, say 50, and then that 4K signal would then be 2K. And it's really a great way to free up bandwidth. And because this is done on the CPU side, it does take a little bit more CPU processing, but it doesn't rely on the camera's output abilities. So if you're sending 1920 by 1080 and you want a 960 by 540, but the camera doesn't accept 960 by 540, like it won't send that, you can just do the and scale equals 50, and you'll get a 960 by 540 because the scaling's happening in software. Cool.
Right, that's cool. That's pretty cool, man. Since you have a C22, you and I have a Brio. One day we should just do a 4K back and forth.
Well, the camera I'm using right here is a Marshall CV365. The camera I have.
Yeah, you have a C22.
The camera, the C922 is behind me. This one's pretty cool too, and optimize. Let's say you're doing a big thing with 30 people, and like you got 5 groups of 5 coming in at a time, but you have 30 feeds coming to you, and your computer's like, man, this is awful, like having all these HD feeds coming to me. And they're all being processed in the background, just standing by. My computer's going to be sluggish, right? Add and optimize to the end of your link for the people that are on the entire time. And it's going to use that tally feature that we saw earlier. When they aren't live on OBS, it's going to reduce their bit rate to 600 kilobytes per second, saving you on bandwidth and CPU processing.
That's nice.
That one's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
So now the room function. I think using OBS Ninja in conjunction with something like Zoom is really cool, and it works really well. You just have to get people to actually install Chroma Cam or Snapcam or something like that for that to work. OBS does have room functionality. You can have your own rooms, okay? So we got our basic link that we send out to people is this obs.ninja push equals some name. So what do you think we have to do to get them into a room? Add and room equals room name. So whatever you want the room to be called, you just add room equals and the name of the room. Everybody that has this link will get video feeds from everybody else in that room. And then you have a room that people can see and talk to each other. This is great for up to like 4 to 5 guests, maybe a couple more, because everybody in the room is getting low resolution, low bandwidth, low bit rate video stream from everybody else. They don't get the HD feeds. The only person that gets the HD feeds is the OBS person. All right, everybody else gets save on bandwidth and stuff like that. The person in charge of the room that controls it, you give them this link, and director equals room name. You don't have to add the room, just add and director instead of and room. And the person who is directing the entire thing has their own little web page that can control stuff from the back end. This can also be the OBS operator too, usually. So then the link for the director would look like this. And director equals some room, and then you can push the director's name if you want to. If you don't push the director's name, then it will give you a random name. And you don't always need to push the director's names, but I'm going to show you later on why you might want to. Now, what's the problem with using these rooms? So in this example, we have OBS. I need to actually open up with this one quick thing real quick. Window projector. Yes. So we have OBS here that's getting 4 feeds from everybody else, but everybody's in a room. So this guy right here is sending a video feed to this guy. They're also sending a feed to this guy and this person. This person's sending a feed here, here, and here. So every participant is now sending 4 streams. 3 of them are low bandwidth and not low quality, but still a lot of machines can't handle this. And a lot of iOS devices will just explode after you send 3. They max out at 3. They won't send any more. They refuse. They just won't send the 4th one. So if people are coming in from a phone. And by the way, I suggest that any participants use a hardline internet connection and not connect by phone, but you can connect by phone. So that's a big issue is with the rooms, is that everybody has to send video to everybody else. Like I said, it's not a big deal with like 3 or 4 people, but once you get to these shows that have 12 people, 15 people, 30 people, it's just not going to work, right? But there's solutions to that too. Clear my whiteboard. And that is by adding this other little solution and show only. If you, on the push side, the participants link, you add show only, and then they will only see video to the people that you specify. Okay? So what can you do with this? You can use it to send back a program feed. So then I create a push link that pushes the name program feed, and then I use the output of OBS using OBS's virtual camera feature to output the program feed back to the Zoom room. They'll still hear each other. Everybody can hear each other. It's that they won't receive video signals from anybody else except for the people you put in the show only. And this can be comma separated, so you can have multiple sources that they actually receive. For example, if you want to send that director's feed as well. We're going to show you how that works too. It's pretty cool. So then you would make the link be show only equals program feed. And then the way that this routing would work then is you would have the 4 people sending video to OBS, and OBS would be sending video back to the 4 people because you have control over the computer you're using. If you have a fast enough internet connection and a fast enough computer that can encode and decode all these WebRTC feeds, it's not that big of a deal to send out 4 feeds simultaneously. And remember, those are all going to be lower bandwidth because they're going to a room. So let's look at
what kind of latency would you be looking at there then?
Well, who's our furthest guest tonight? Who lives the furthest from New York City? Do we have anybody from really far away?
Omar further than I am.
Where are you, Omar?
Miami.
Okay, let's go. Are you still on that thing?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me turn it back on.
Okay, turn it back on.
I'm there now.
So I've got this show. I've given some people some the OBS Ninja links, and they've already signed on. And I got this show right here with the links already in there. So let's go ahead and go to Omar. He is right here. Guest 2. Here's the browser source right here. I'm going to go ahead and right-click it and go to Interact. And then I'm going to go to this window here. I'm going to hold down Control and left-click. And now I got a settings window, this like cool little window here. I'm just going to close this. And if we go over to here, I'm actually going to make this full screen on my side because I can't read it because my eyes are getting bad. And we got some information from him. So We know what platform he's on. The round trip delay in milliseconds, it looks like it just jumped to 97 milliseconds, 65 milliseconds. So it's less than 1/10 of a second there and back. That's the delay we're getting right now. The bit rate. Okay, we've got 2 bit rates here. One of them is going to the OBS Ninja room, and the other one is to me. That doesn't seem right, but it says 124. But maybe it is, because he does look pretty pixelated on my side. So maybe that is what he's sending. And his codec, he's sending H.264. What are you sending on? Is it an iPhone?
No, I'm on a MacBook Pro, but I'm also like in a dark lit room with one light as my source. So I'm sure it's more of the low light quality than anything else.
So like I said, some iOS devices will default to H.264. I don't know what the deal with that is. But let's go ahead and look at Bodhi now to see the difference. So I think he's definitely sending VP8. So if I go to interact again, click right there, make this full screen so I can see it. And yep, he's sending VP8. 1280 by 720. And his round trip delay is 56 milliseconds. And then if I go to, like I said, I can change his video to VP9 just by going here and typing and codec equals VP9. Enter. And then it's going to reload, it's going to reload, it's going to reload, and there he's back as VP9. Not much difference. I mean, he looked good before. I'm going to change that to VP8 because I don't want to.
Thank you.
Fine.
Appreciate that.
So that's how that works. Let's look at the director's room and actually send a feed back to them, okay? Because right now they don't have the feed. So I'm going to go ahead and open my director's room. Here it is. And if we can get the other people to join the room too, that'd be great. So this is what the director sees in that link that has the and director. And I have a lot of really cool functions here. So I can change the resolution I'm receiving here. I can make it look a little bit better by clicking on these buttons down here. Toggle that up. I can turn the feed off, disable the video. You see he froze. It's still working in OBS. It's still coming through in OBS. It's just my preview as the director. I can make it a low preview, low resolution preview, or make it bigger. And I can even make it big by clicking this button to actually view it in full glory, just so I can check his camera. As the director, I can see it like that. Press escape, it'll go away. I can chat to him too. I can click on the message button and say, hey, your mic is off. And then he will get that message. It will appear over his screen. So only he gets that. And then I have a chat function here. He can reply back and it says Bodhi IT guy because he entered that name with the and label function. And he says, I want it to be. So I can communicate with them through that. I can enable a way to talk to them as the director by clicking enable directors push to talk. I'm going to close this right here. And now I can click over here, this gear, choose my microphone. I want it to be this selection. And I want this to be right here, my speaker. And I can even have my camera. So if they want to see me, I can turn that camera on right there. And then they will be able to see me. And I should pop up for them because in the link that I gave them, I told them, the link I said, show only program feed, comma, and then the director's name. So the director's, what I'm pushing as the director's ID, I made it sure that they could see the director. And I could always turn the video off by clicking on this I button here so they can't see me anymore. So I just need to pop on and say something. I can tell them, and then I can pop off.
Hey, Rocco, can you send me one of those guest links so I can send it to one of the participants in Facebook land?
Yeah, so we just need one more, right? Did we have 3 right now?
Oh, no, Keith had to jump off something.
Okay, so we need, but Keith, 2. I gave 3, right? Or yeah, 2. Which one are you? Okay, so I'll give you 2 of them. This will be guest 3. Should I just send it to you directly, Omar?
That's fine.
Yep. And then it looks like Ori wants to jump in too, so we'll
so there's Ori. Guest. I'll send Ori directly for 4 then.
He's not in Zoom. He's on Facebook right now, it looks like.
Oh, I can send it to him Facebook.
Perfect.
We're friends. Okay, Ori. Okay. Ori, I sent you that link for user 4. So as they come on, they'll pop in here and populate. And now let's go ahead and add the program feed. Okay. So I'm going to click on, I made a link for my program feed. Click on that link. Here it is, join room with camera. I'm going to join this room as, okay, OBS camera 2. I actually need to start that in OBS 2. So I'm going to go over to here and go to tools, virtual cam, OBS camera 2, click start. Now my output of OBS is going to be that virtual camera is what that's doing. And then you can see it here. And my audio source, they don't need any audio from that, so I'm going to make it no audio because they can hear each other. And this, I'll make it aux for now, because that way it won't go out to anybody. Actually, can I make it to, yeah, that guy right there. Click start. All right. Okay, there we go. So now you'll see that I got 4 people in, and they should be getting the program feed. Are you getting the program feed too? It should just be another picture of, oh, I got 3 guests plus the program feed. Here's the 4th person coming in now. We got Rich. So we got 4 people. So let's go ahead and go to OBS real quick. And they should be getting the program feed. Are you getting the program feed too? It should just be another picture of, oh, I got getting an echo from somebody. Who's that? Here's the I can find out really easily, actually. We got Rich. So we got 4 people. So let's go ahead and go to OBS real quick. Guest 4, which is Ori. Yep, gotcha. So when they talk, if somebody can talk for me, you'll see I've got individual audio feeds from everybody.
Hello.
What's up?
Hold on. You know, let me spotlight you there because
yeah,
we were doing active speaker. Sorry about that.
Okay. As long as you're talking through the correct audio device, and if you chose no audio, then it won't come through. But I got everybody coming through here.
I can change mine for us.
Great, perfect. You see all that? I got levels on his. That's guest 1. Me. Not only do I have individual video feeds that are isolated shots, I got individual audio feeds as well. And then I can go ahead and change everybody's lower thirds as well, so it looks better. So we just go down to lower thirds. Just go ahead and fix them real quick. So we'll go to, this is going to be Bodie. Boddie.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to leave the professional guy as your title. I think that's a good one. We got Omar. 3 was, who was our 3rd person?
I think 3 was Ori.
No, I think 3 is Rich.
Oh, okay.
3 is Rich,
sorry.
so I'll change it.
Yeah, it was Rich.
Rich, and his title will be OBS Ninja Guest. And then we can do 4 as Ori. Oops. Name Ori. And his title will be Nice Guy. Great. All right, now I can just switch between all the different people easily. I still have that stats up page up for him. Yeah, his bandwidth is really bad. I would have to do some troubleshooting with Omar to make it better. We can try to see if we can fix it by just forcing VP8. Let's see if that helps. If I go to Omar's, bring up his and codec equals VP8. Press OK. See if it reloads. It might fail. Oh, quality jumped dramatically. H.264 was a bad choice. Oh, we got some pukey look right here. That if you get that look, it might be a good idea to switch to VP9. It's kind of nice when things actually go wrong, so you can actually show the troubleshooting. There we go. VP9 solved the issue. We got a nice shot from Omar now. Now I can bring people in and have them in any kind of combination I want. And that is OBS Ninja in a nutshell. And then if we can show, is there any way for me to show what it looks like from your perspective, like Bodhi or Omar? Maybe you could do a screen share of what it looks like as a guest, so you can see that the only video you're getting is the program feed.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
I just did a screen.
Omar got it quicker than me.
Great. So you'll see this is what Omar's seeing. And Omar, if you click on the screen that has the program feed, you'll see some glasses next to it. If you click on the glasses, it will make that one be big screen, so you can get a better. It actually makes the resolution a little bit better as well.
I'm on the big screen.
In terms of my CPU usage right now, so right now I'm running 2 instances of OBS, doing all this stuff, and I'm sending out 4 WebRTC feeds, receiving 4 WebRTC feeds. My CPU usage is 36%. That doesn't include actually the director's view too. So if you include the director's room, that means I'm actually receiving, in OBS, I'm receiving 4 feeds. And then in the director's room, I'm receiving another 5 feeds. So technically, I'm getting 9 feeds that I'm receiving and sending out. Technically, I'm sending out 5 in varying bit rates and resolution. My CPU is at 35%. I have a really good CPU, though. If you do this on a computer that's not beastly, you're going to have issues. You're going to run into issues doing all these OBS Ninja feeds.
So is a Chromebook not a good choice?
Chromebook's not a good choice.
Oh, okay.
But it is a good choice. This would be a great thing to use in the cloud, though. It would work really well in the cloud.
Yes.
How would it work on a Mac?
Omar's using a Mac.
It works on a Mac. Omar's using a Mac. So like we were having issues with Omar. It was iOS devices, for some reason, default to H.264. Not all of them. Some of them do. And I was able to force VP9 by adding that codec.
Thanks for the uplift there, Jeff. Just so you know, I always feel it when you talk. I appreciate you.
Now, in terms of
for you guys, I'm using a 2020 MacBook Pro.
Not a 2015.
Nope.
Really?
2020 MacBook Pro.
On a 2020?
Bought at the beginning of the company that I was working for bought at the beginning of the year. Yeah.
You should have your MSI Renegade up and see how that works.
All of this that I've shown you the way that I've done this only works on Windows, though. If you're using OBS on a Mac, the process is different. What you need to do is go to OBS Ninja Electron Capture app. I don't even know. It's here. It's right. It's this guy right here. Put that into the chat. Somebody can share that. So you can download this Capture app, right? And you can run it as a standalone thing, or you can actually install it. I actually installed it. And it installs and comes up as OBSN. And it's just this like little window here. And what this is a very simplified version of Chromium, I guess, in a way, with no borders and whatnot. And what you can do is add, let me go ahead and grab a link from if I go to the control room. Oh, and by the way, if you want to another really cool thing you can do, just to show you why I'm here, in OBS, I'm just going to make a new scene real quick. I can grab one of these links here from any of these people in the room and just drag it into the sources list. And then that's the OBS Ninja link as a source. That's all you have to do to add them to OBS.
Best feature ever.
Yeah. But what I'm going to do is copy the solo link. Let's go ahead and copy Bodhi's. And go to this Capture app again. This is what you would do on a Mac. You'd paste the link here. View guest one, and you can choose what output audio device to use, so that the audio is coming through to any kind of audio device. This would be a good way of using this would be a virtual audio cable of some sort, like Black Hole, or the defunct Soundflower, something like that. So you can route the audio to OBS. So I'm just going to add it to this guy for right now. I can force VP9 if I want. I can, if it's a screen share, I can show the mouse cursor or hide the mouse cursor right here. I can do high video bit rate. It will edit the link for me if I want by clicking on these little choices here. Press go, and Bodhi will come in this little window here, and then I would just use OBS to do a window capture of this specific window, and you can have as many of these running as your computer could handle, essentially. So if I just go over to OBSN and click on it again, it will open up another window. And you could stack them. It's no problem with stacking. Just have them on another screen, stack them all to high as you want, and just capture each individual window as an isolated source. So that's how you would use it on Mac. And it works great. So there's some people, like I said, like the Chromium and OBS isn't updated all the way to the current version. So there's times when you might actually want to use the Capture app because it just works better.
So Rocco, I just want to ask, sorry, we got about 20-ish, 25 minutes left on the clock. Are we good to do some questions? I got tons of questions on Facebook and on Zoom. We can kind of write down. Yeah?
Absolutely. Let's do questions.
So the one I got on Facebook, and I'll try to do this in order. I'm trying to see. So one of them on Facebook was from Jordan Engel. Is there any way to separate each of these callers into an NDI feed?
I mean, you could. It depends on how fast your computer is. The easy way to do that would be to, there is a plugin for OBS that does NDI, okay? So you could easily just go to each one of these isolated sources, click on it, add a filter, make the filter. Where is the filter? Dedicated NDI output. Name the NDI output and press apply changes, close it. Now that isolated shot is an NDI feed on my network. So let's go ahead and open up this. I don't know if it's going to work or not. It's kind of iffy because like sometimes NDI feeds on OBS, you'll need to restart for it to actually take, but not always. Let's see if I can find it on my network though. I'm just going to open up Studio Monitor. Nope, there it is. Bodhi is an NDI feed. So, yeah.
And have you seen a limit in this and doing that workflow? I could see that just as we've used vMix Call to bring in and convert to a bunch of NDI feeds for other software to mix with, this could be used the same way.
It could. I think that the way that OBS handles NDI feeds can be problematic sometimes. And the way it handles audio is in NDI is very problematic. So
it's not you're not getting isolated. You're getting isolated video, but not isolated audio.
No, so what I'd have to do is add an NDI to his audio source as well. So if I go to Bodhi's audio, he's guest 1, I believe. Yes, he's guest 1. So I'd go to guest 1's audio and go to filters and do the exact same thing with adding a dedicated NDI output, and then to make sure that I choose, there's a way to make it so it's only audio, right? Oh, I think actually it might be audio. Is there a way for me to, I need to actually see if audio is coming through.
In the NDS Studio Monitor, you should be able to turn on audio so you can see the,
yeah,
Bodhi,
let's see, let's
say
do
something,
that.
Bodhi, and see.
Hello, hello, hello.
Where would it show it at?
You can turn on the meters, go to settings, and then audio. All right, so currently right now you're using voice meter as your input. Then go down to overlay and output.
Oh, overlay,
actually, I think it's output, actually. Go to output, and then you can make sure, I'm having to squint myself. Nope, I'm sorry, new version, video. Go to video. And then you should see meters. So your meters are turned on.
Oh, it's on, yeah.
Yeah. But you may not have audio coming through the voice meter also.
Yeah, it could be on a separate source.
So I'd have to route it that way then, huh?
Yeah, so if you just go to settings and audio and
so
look for one that's out of OBS.
Yeah, so what I'd have to do is actually I would have to monitor this output. Yeah. If you're using the Electron app, I guess that would be one way to do that, because then you could take the WebRTC feed and then just do, what would Scan Converter do it? Maybe it would do it. But what you can do is go to Advanced Audio Properties and make it turn on the monitor and output. And then make sure that my monitoring device in audio is set to whatever I want it to be. I'm going to set it to, I want it to be aux. Just got to see it. There we go. Press apply, press OK. Then in my NDI Studio Monitor, go to settings, audio, make sure that is aux. Now can you talk for me?
Hello?
Oh, I
Hold
need
on.
to actually, let me route it.
Yeah, I
over
gotta
here
come
too.
through. Yeah, I gotta come through. There we go. Hello? Hello?
Still nothing.
Yeah. Hello? Hello?
I
That's
see it
where
moving
it
on the
should be.
meters.
Did it move?
Moving on a meter behind him.
Yeah.
Behind myself, but not.
Ooh. Hulk screen.
Oh, we're maxing something
Yeah.
out?
I think I was just getting double from him.
That's pretty.
Is something wrong on my side?
Yeah, you're getting the Hulk screen.
Yeah, you're getting the NDI Hulk screen.
I'm going to close this down then before it gets too upset.
Are you using
There it
NDI
goes.
scan converter to or the virtual input to feed that? Is what you're using, Rocco, or is it actually coming directly out of the OBS to the Zoom input?
I'm sending video to Zoom using virtual cam and OBS. I am using scan converter on one of my other computers to bring in this feed from another computer so I can show off stuff on there. And my output out of this OBS that I'm showing here is another NDI feed on my network going into my other OBS so I can do full screen. But
You're still Hulk screen. You have the NDI. Just making sure NDI gets shut off. That's all for you.
let me close that here then. Filters. I'm just gonna delete that. So what I'll do is I'll restart my virtual camera. Try that. Did that fix anything?
Nope. Still got Hulk screen. Oh, now
There we go.
So I have noticed this, and
Ooh.
it did fix
Interesting.
itself, then it went back. But I've noticed this about Zoom, that it can be funky. If you stop your video on your send from your end in Zoom, and then turn it back on, sometimes that will fix it.
So it was
There we go.
fixed when I unspotlighted him, but then when I respotlighted him, that's when it changed. Huh.
Still doing
As
it.
I spotlight him, we're getting Hulk screen, which is
So is
interesting.
it R encoder then for the bump?
No.
Huh.
No, when he's in gallery, it's fine. So basically, let's do this. Let's change our view here.
Live production.
Oh, interesting. So on one of my machines, he's fine, and then in my other machine, he's not.
Yeah, if I put him down in
Green on
gallery
mine.
view from here, he's
Well,
fine.
so I'm looking at gallery right now. I went back to gallery, and Facebook should be seeing gallery, and so should our guests here in Zoom. And on
Facebook gallery, he's green.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
see him
so-
green.
but on my other machine, my host machine. Hold on, let me remove his spotlight, which probably moved him in the gallery order. He's actually totally fine on one of my machines. But
Yeah,
then
when
on the
he's
other one-
unhighlighted right now for me, he's not green.
Yep.
But he's still green on Facebook.
Well, that's because they're on a delay.
Oh, it's a delay. Yeah.
So now if we are back to...
How about don't spotlight him? See if his voice will bring him back in.
Hello?
Nope.
Oh,
Yeah, so he's green.
I'm
so
not
what
seeing it on my
was
side.
the issue you were saying you're seeing, Jeff, with Zoom?
Well, Don was green there for a second too.
I think that was the reflection off his
Oh,
monitor.
yeah. Should I rejoin the call? Leave and come back?
You're back 100% now.
Oh,
Yeah,
am
at
I?
the moment yeah, that's true. You're good now.
Now you're
Good
good.
old Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened?
You
It
gotta
works.
love it, but it is a new world, unfortunately.
So that was fun. That was pretty
that
fun.
was-
If no
never
one in
seen
Facebook land has ever seen the Hulk screen, that's it. If you hear people talk about it, that's the Hulk screen. Everything goes green and sometimes purple too with it. But yeah, that was interesting.
Welcome to live production.
So, but getting back to OBS and NDI, like I love the guy that made the NDI plugin. His guy Polakis is his name. He's the same person that made the WebSockets. You know, so really great plugin maker, but it's not the most amazing thing in the world. You know, so in terms of using OBS as like the translation point for WebRTC to NDI feeds, yes, you could do it with some futzing. I don't know if it's worth it. but you could do it. It's really easy to do one output. If I was just wanting to output my program feed from OBS as one NDI feed, it works great. But doing multiple NDI feeds out of OBS, it's kind of tricky.
So I'll move it forward then. So Jordan Ingo is saying on Facebook, does OBS do a mix minus? I'm sorry, OBS Ninja.
OBS Ninja is doing a mix minus because the way that I have the room set up, they are receiving individual audio feeds from every panelist. All right. And then the only video feed they're seeing is my program feed that has no audio attached. Does that make sense? So it is a mix minus in that sense. They are not hearing themselves.
Yeah,
now,
so they never hear themselves then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, another cool thing about using this OBS Ninja is the way that rooms work. You see this little button that says transfer? If I click on transfer, it brings up this window and I can transfer the guest to another room that I've already have created. Okay, so I can use multiple Zoom rooms, right? And then this could be like a green room that I'm prepping the panelists for, and then I send them to the live stage room. 200 by 200 pixels big. Create it. Okay, so I can use multiple Zoom rooms, right? And I'm hearing
hearing somebody back.
Prepping the panelists for. Okay, so that's a pretty cool use of that. And then you could also do you have these other stuff in here too. You can, like, if you want to just invite somebody quickly, you can use this link here and to invite them to the room. This link here would invite them to a room but not allow them to see any of the other guests. So if they just need to send something but not receive anything back. The scene link will actually do an automatic mix of all the guests that you add to the scene. So there's these buttons called add to scene. So if I click these add to scene buttons right here, I got 3 people added. Then I got the scene link here. I'm going to copy that and just open it up in a browser to show it. It should be those 3 people that I clicked on as an automatic mix once it actually loads in. Yeah, of course, it doesn't want to work for me. Probably work better in OBS. Maybe add it in OBS instead. Make a new blank scene. Then I bring this guy over here. There we go. It's okay. The scene function doesn't want to work for me for some reason.
So Rocco, this has been a ton of information and super awesome that you did this demo. Really great. We do still have some more questions.
Yeah, let's do the questions. That's the good stuff. Yep.
Cool. We can always do another part 2 of this if we want down the road, because it's just there are a lot of questions, and I think it's so much to take in, and it just does so much. There's so many different things that you can do with it. So looking at from the Facebook side, we still had a couple. Sorry. Rich had asked something, or had, I guess, made a comment. If you're running NVIDIA GPU, NVEC encoding is a nice tool to take some of the strain off the CPU. Can you take advantage of that with this OBS Ninja?
So with OBS Ninja, with browser sources, you can choose to decode it on the GPU rather than the CPU, but I believe that the codecs will still be on the CPU. I'm not positive about that.
It will be.
Yeah. But there is browser-based hardware decoding built into OBS. You have to actually enable it. And it's in the back end under advanced. Sources right here. Enable browser source hardware acceleration. But I don't think it would help much with WebRTC feeds because the codecs are all CPU based.
Got it.
But the NVEC encoder is really great, and if you have, it's just way better than the CPU encoder. Like it's so good. All right, next question.
Is there any way to record in 1080p from OBS Ninja, but lightly on resources? My laptop CPU is pegged at 100%, and recording results stutters. Recording into OBS.
You can actually record in. You can record the isolated feeds in OBS Ninja. I've never used that function, but I know it's there. So if I take my feed here, I can actually click on record and it will record it. It's an experimental feature right now. So you can actually have recordings of these isolated feeds if you wanted to. And I think when you're done, it gives you but I don't think it would help because it's still taking up resources. If you're maxing out your CPU, you need more CPU, man.
OBS is very CPU intensive when it comes to a lot of its post processing because it's all WebSocket laden built for all the ingesting that comes into OBS. So I definitely recommend that if you're trying to do it, get yourself a moderate. I mean, you can go with an i3 processor, i3 6-core processor can operate OBS perfectly fine, but it has to be paired with a GPU to be able to stream out. So it's just all dependent on what you're going to be using it for and how you're going to be using it is what you're going to build for.
Yeah. And you can record on the GPU too with OBS. You just have to choose the right encoding setting. So you can record with NVENC as well.
Great. Pete Hagen had posted this on Facebook, and then we didn't get to it fast enough, so he came on the Zoom webinar side and was asking, what current GPU would you recommend? I'm in an enterprise managed Dell house, but I can order pretty well outfitted precision towers.
I don't like recommending specific hardware for people, but I do think that the 1066, is that what it's called? The GTX 1066 is a bargain just because of its NVENC encoder. But it's hard for me to actually recommend. 1666. Thank you. So it's basically
1660. Sorry,
1660. It has basically the same NVENC encoder as the 20,000 series GPUs. So the 10,000 series has an NVENC encoder as well, but it's not as good as a 20,000 series. But the 1660 has a better NVENC encoder.
1660 Ti. It's a 6 gig. You have the option. There's two different GPUs for that one. You have a 4 gigabyte GPU option. You have a 6 gigabyte GPU option. I think the 4 gigabyte GPU is like $199.99, and the 6 gig is $239.99. I absolutely recommend the 6 gig over the 4 gig, just for the simple fact is it's $30 more, $40 more, and like you said, the NVENC encoding and being able to process everything that's going on will be. That 2 gigabyte VRAM difference is astronomical.
So on my system right now, I'm running a GTX 1080 Founders Edition. So, and I'm able to do all this stuff. You don't need a lot of GPU to do stuff, but there are instances where that GPU is going to come in handy. I am doing a lot of stuff on my setup here on the GPU. But I'm definitely trading off and being able to do a lot of these things because I have a really good CPU, which is right now I'm using a 5800X, which will be upgraded to a 5950 as soon as it comes in.
Aaron from Zoom said some of the Quadro cards have multiple NVENC encoders as well.
Yeah, if you can get a Quadro card, go for that. Yeah, definitely.
If you can afford that, it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you should see what Linus Tech Tips did recently with his OBS setup with multiple portable OBS instances. And he was using Quadro cards, and it was a really cool setup.
So yeah, so moving on here, we got 6 more minutes, guys. I got like a kind of a little thing I pulled out of the comments a little earlier from a person that I want to mention at the end here. So real quick on the Zoom side, Amir had asked, and this was about an hour ago, so it might be a little off topic, but when I add an ASIO input audio source into an OBS scene, it does not show up as a channel in the audio mixer. I need to shut down OBS and reopen it to have it display. Is this just a bug?
What most likely is happening is the sources don't show up until they're in program. So if you're adding it into OBS and it looks like this, and you're adding it here, your audio source. So if I go ahead and add an audio source, I'm just going to add my microphone.
We're not seeing your screen.
So I'm sorry. There we go. If I'm adding an audio source, audio input capture, and I'm just going to add my microphone, which is this one right here. It's okay. Oh, it's not in the audio mixer, but it's right there. If I hit transition though, it's there. So that's you're probably just missing a step.
Right. So then the next one was from Raymond Sweet. Kind of on and off topic. You appear perfectly in your background. Is that a function of OBS or lighting or CPU?
Yes. All of the above. I have professional lights. I have a green screen. And I spent a long time getting my green screen sorted. So, you know, I have one light here that's just lighting my green screen. I got lights here that are lighting me. Green screen's behind me. That's my setup.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also when you're in that view, you have that reflection of yourself. Like, so you got a few things.
I added that today. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
So I use that move source filter so I can move my camera around. So I can like go to the bottom left, you know. But if I want to be out of the way, I move over there. But I thought I don't like me just floating in the air, so I decided to add the reflection. And I have it happen. The move happens and the reflection comes up programmatically. You know, it's in stages. I just think it's a nice touch. And then if I want to, I can move my camera over here. I can go over here if I want. You know.
Yeah, no, that reflection's very elegant. It's a nice little touch. It's in the details.
And I'm using the plugin Stream Effects. I'm using, if you download Stream Effects, there's one thing in it called Source Mirror that allows you to mirror a source and then apply filters to it so that the original source and the source mirror can have different filters. So I have the source mirror with a blur effect and an opacity change as a lower opacity, so it's a little bit translucent, and then I just flip it around. But then it's mirroring the source so that it's perfectly in sync, instead of adding two versions of the source capture, which would be more resource intensive.
So, sorry, I got another one for you. So Ricardo Bacco says, I'm hoping I said that right. Sorry. Have you heard about bugs in a recent update of OBS? Was trying to help someone who upgraded and all of his cameras could not be seen.
I haven't had any issues. I'm using the newest version. I was very excited about it for a couple reasons. One being that I can actually copy and paste individual filters, which you couldn't do before that. Before this version, you had to copy all the filters and paste all the filters. Now I can copy one filter and paste it, which is great. That was the most exciting update. But I haven't had any issues with the new update. What you can do though is use portable OBS if you're scared of updates, and then use portable OBS separate from your main installation to test it out so that you're not messing with your production ready installation.
Yeah. So last one from Facebook land, which is perfect timing we might end on time, but let me not jinx it. Mark Barron has said, "Great work, team. Super informative. Takes everything to another level for me. Initial understanding. If you were to recommend a PC or Mac, this is a very Mac PC diversion in this group. What would you say is a good machine to handle all of this? Are you looking at anything like an i9, 8, or a 10 core RTX, 1080 Super with 8 gigabytes, or 32 gigabytes of RAM?"
Well, with the WebRTC, like I said, it's CPU based. So the main reason I upgraded my system recently, I was running a 6700K, is that with my 6700K, I could only handle like 2 or 3 OBS Ninja feeds before it just said, no, I don't want to do anymore. With the 5800, I can handle much, much more, you know? So it's definitely a lot with the CPU in terms of the OBS Ninja stuff. If you just need to do OBS stuff without the OBS Ninja, you don't need as powerful of a system. It's just that all these WebRTC feeds really just tax your system. So you need to have something a bit better. But like I said, I don't like recommending specific gear, but I am happy to share what gear I'm using. Let me get you a link to my setup so you can see. And like I said, I'm upgrading to a 5950. I already ordered it. I already paid for it. It's just going to take forever to get to me.
I do see the comments coming through about the AMD Ryzen on Facebook. Everybody in Facebook is 100% right. The new Ryzens are pound for pound better multi-core processing than any Intel on the market. If you want my recommendation, I recommend a simple i9 3800, 3900 X or XT Ryzen processor. The 3900s are about $329. They are an 8-core, 16-thread processor. If you want to go newer, definitely recommend the 5900, the 5950, or the 5800. Those are 12, 16 core respectively, with roughly around 3.7 gigahertz to 4.2 gigahertz base core processors. RTX 2080 is not 100% necessary for any of the NVENC encoding or anything like that. Like we said, 1660 Ti is plenty enough to do any of the streaming sides that you're going to be doing. 2060 Supers, 2070 Supers, they all work just as good. You don't need to spend the $800-900 that 2080 garners in order to get that. 32 gigabits of RAM to 16 gigs of RAM. I prefer the higher end when it comes to RAM, just so everything can multitask properly without hitches. When you want to open something, it opens instantly. So yeah, everybody out there saying AMDs, you're not wrong. AMD is definitely where it is when it comes to multi-thread processing.
Yeah, the computer we're building for the times right now is going to be a Ryzen Threadripper. I'm really excited to play with it. 39, I think it's the 3955, I think, is what they're doing.
Yeah, so I totally jinxed it, by the way, guys. I apologize for that. It is past 9 o'clock. I do want to say the one line from the Facebook group that I thought was impactful. I think more to the community on Zoom right now, because you guys know who this is. And I think also for the community on Facebook land, just because of what he said. But Doug Larson said, your expertise has made my life much easier, and it will help lots of people using OBS much more efficiently. I cannot agree more with that. I'm 100% down with that comment, especially with what we just learned tonight. You know, we have seen between Christopher and Ed and myself, a lot of times when the presenter is very knowledgeable on what he's doing, the questions trickle in because we're just like Ed said earlier, we're just dumbfounded by what we're learning. So it takes us our brain a little bit to like, I'm still learning this. I don't have questions. I'm trying to figure out what you just did.
Do we have time to show off? Do we have time to show off Christopher's setup, how he used OBS Ninja? Because it'd be cool to see a real world example of OBS Ninja in action, because it's really kind of a clever use of it.
Yeah, I would love to. I just want to let everybody know if you're in the Zoom chat with us and you need to leave, please don't feel obligated to stay with us any longer. If you're in Facebook land, you need to head out for the night. These are all recorded and you come back to it. Love to see Chris's thing with OBS with Among Us, I believe, is the program he uses to use that OBS Ninja plugin. But again, I know people have obligations to family and things like that. So yes, we have a cutoff at 9, but I'm going to let it continue so we can see this, because I think it is a great example of what OBS is capable of doing with OBS Ninja. Chris made a really, really cool layout for this, for what he does on the Twitch side. So Chris, if you're ready to take it away, brother.
Yeah, so I do have my screen share up right now. Are you guys seeing that? Is everybody seeing that? Okay, so my camera's not in right now because I don't have OBS set up with SnapCam for my camera. So where you see down here in this bottom left corner where Iris is right now, that's normally where my camera is. And then what you're seeing behind everybody is actually what the gameplay screen would be. So we're playing Among Us. That's where you'll see, like, this is what we use for the meeting room. So what it does is it'll have everybody's name up in here, but all these little circles are the OBS Ninja server open, actually. So the moment that we want to play, all I do is everybody that plays with us, they come in, and they grab their links that I've sent them, and they automatically will pop up in the individual little boxes. I tried to see if anybody was on to grab them to come in. The one that's empty right now, we had to switch out this week. They weren't there, so it's blank to see who comes in. These people that are there are usually the ones that are there every Saturday when we play and have like a rotating seat on some of them. But yeah, this is 9 instances of OBS Ninja that works. I have a 2700X. I don't have any of the new Ryzen 3900s or 5900s. I'm using a 2700X, and I have all 9 instances coming in. They are all open instances. I let them choose their own camera display, so that way their resolution, so that way they can bring it in as hard as they want. If they have a 1080p camera, by all means, be 1080p. You have 720, let it be 720. I mean, it's all up to the end user of who's bringing it in. This isn't a room. These are individual links that I've sent to everybody. So I have them organized. And I don't have the fancy scroll in like Rocco does over here, but down in the source list down here, you can see I have them all named: Havoc, Stave, Dad, Braden, Jack. So it's all labeled on the web links of what they are. And then all the names are set. Like, see, this is one of the users. So all the names are set based on and off toggles for everything. And like, it's just, I love it. I took it and ran. All these TVs are just JPEG transparent images that I put together for everybody.
Then the way he's doing is they're communicating through Discord.
Yep.
So they don't. He doesn't need the room. He's doing the most simple setup, where he's just getting video feeds from everybody, but they're using something else to communicate with. Using
Discord or the CrewLink app now that's out for Among Us. It's a mod for Among Us where it's actually a proximity chat. When you're close enough to somebody, they can hear you, and as you walk away, it fades away. But yeah, this is what we use. I use this every Saturday, and I love it. And I've had so many people comment on it. Had a few people ask how it's done. I'm like, God, I'll put it together. Like I've already told everybody, and that's the benefit for everybody that's in here. I've already started putting it together as a package to where they can export it and import it into Streamlabs OBS. Not just OBS itself, but Streamlabs OBS, Stream Elements OBS project that they use, everything to where they can literally just take this, set it in, and change the settings to fit them and produce their own OBS links, OBS Ninja links. I've taught all 9 of these people how to use OBS Ninja so that way they can use it for their own sources as well.
That's awesome. And it looked great, man.
I have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool. So is there, I guess anybody, we haven't really got to hear from the gallery much today. What are our thoughts? Anybody have anything to say about what we just all witnessed? I know Jeff had a couple times where he was nodding his head, and
it's like I said earlier, it's a great tool to have in your toolbox. Just like vMix is, and it's good to see some deeper integration with it. My exposure to it has not been huge. It's just not a tool that I grew into, and its workflow is a little bit different than traditional video tools. So I guess that's probably one of the reasons why it never really just jumped out at me. But Rocco, you've done a fantastic job kind of explaining it to the masses. So we really appreciate you coming in and giving some of your expertise. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I'm not even sure my computer can handle it, but it's really cool. How
about you, Don? What are your thoughts?
I think it's just great. I love the creativity that you bring to the table, Rocco. Really, really cool. Just the power that you're unleashing with this, not only technically, but some great ideas on how to use it. So thanks for that. It's great.
Cool. So with that, I mean, it's a little after 9. Omar, what do you got coming up this week on the podcast on Wednesday night?
Yeah, so this Wednesday night, I have Shannon Zulinki's coming on, who was one of the singers at the Level Up Festival, which is part of the Live Events Coalition, which is an event done to raise money to help out people in the live events industry, not just in corporate AV or touring, but in all of it. Live Events Coalition is something I helped start with a couple buddies of mine. It grew very big. I stepped away a little bit, but she was part of it. She's a friend of mine, so we're going to bring her on Wednesday night to talk about the whole experience and giving back to the community and what she's been doing for the LSC as well. And then next Monday, we're going to have another cool talk with for Watch Out, and we're going to gear this one particularly for Watch Out and using LED walls in a live event scenario, so that you guys can kind of see that workflow and look at it through a like a virtualizer essentially, with our speaker, who I wouldn't mention a name right now only because I am definitely afraid I will mess it up, but it is not English. Indian, and he is just saying like another Joe DeMax. He's going to be coming on with us super late at night, so I want to respect his time and everything. I don't want to butcher anything incorrectly, but I'll have that post up for you guys tomorrow to see it. I'm excited for his talk as well because I am a sort of Watch Out guy, but not to that level that he is, and the talks we've been having have been really, really great. So I'm excited to see what he's got for us.
Yeah, I went and got certified on the Watch Out like right before the pandemic. So I think January. So
in Florida, fun fact, Disney's all about Watch Out.
Oh, really?
Really?
They use a lot of Watch Out. Yeah, they use a lot of
Watch Out.
Yeah.
Watch Out's my bread and butter. That's what I was doing before the pandemic. I was doing a lot of Watch Out programming.
Oh, well, then you'll have to come back next week and join us for the talk. So great. With that, I want to thank Rocco. As always, it's a pleasure having you here. Thanks very much. This was a great great demo, tons of questions, tons, that got answered, tons of great feedback. So thank you very much. Thank you to our panel for everything, all your contributions today, and for being here. I hope everybody has a great holiday between here and Facebook, whatever holidays you might be celebrating. We will be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Chris, did you have to? I think you put your Twitch link out already, right?
I didn't put it out in the actual. I responded to that guy, that gentleman, excuse me. But I will go ahead and put it in there. Again, I appreciate Omar and everybody doing this and letting me come on here and do this and promote myself with this. On my channel on twitch.tv/ToxicBioWolf. I can't even say my own damn name right now. Anyway, twitch.tv/ToxicBioWolf. Every single stream I do is always for the kids. It's extra life promotion for local charity to give money to the local hospitals for medical bills that the parents can't cover, helping the parents in any way they can to keep their lives going while their children are getting the treatment necessary to save their lives. And the other thing, too, is any personal donations that come to me, I have finally switched over. One of my PayPals now is a charity PayPal where you donate to me. I am buying Nintendo Switches to give to the kids at my local hospital. I'm still working on one, haven't gotten one yet, but we'll get there one day, hopefully soon. But yeah, that's what I am doing, and that's how my Twitch has been set up and going.
Great.
And then you can also find me on Twitch as well, the other Lone Star.
Oh yeah, put that link up for us.
I'll go ahead and drop my streamer link. That'll be better. Because then they got everything. If you guys want more about me, I stream this content every once in a while on how to do this. My Twitch channel is all about how to live stream and do all these tricks.
Yeah, and if you
got my Twitter and all that stuff.
And if you caught, if you caught the OBS face-off, one of the cool tricks Rocco does is the that Polaroid trick and all that stuff. He's got a ton of really cool things if you're looking to.
That's it.
Word to God, I'm going to steal that.
Polaroid is awesome.
Somebody just posted a video on YouTube on how to do this effect, and I know he got it from me. I know he did.
That's awesome.
But that's okay. I'm glad that people are doing it.
That's awesome. I do want to take a second to thank the DVE store for their continued support. Guy Cochran and his team over there, very knowledgeable. They can help you out with any of your equipment needs. So check them out at dvestore.com. And with that, we will say goodnight to Facebook. Good night, Facebook. Join us next week. Right on the AV Educate Facebook page. That's also where you can catch the podcast. I saw somebody was asking if there are links to the things we were talking about. If you go to the AV Educate page on Facebook, there's a page and there's a group. Join them both. Like them and become a group member. And then you'll get all the info of when we go live. And you'll get to see the whole back catalog of AV Tech Talk episodes. This was episode 25, and all the podcast editions, plus all the great other content that's up on the page. Go check it out. That's probably the best place to look for it. We post the event pages pretty much the week of a show. So our Watch Out event page will be up tomorrow, and then this week, and then we'll get the links out. So and you may have seen I post them pretty much on every AV group there is on Facebook. So you'll probably run into it at some point. So with that, thank you and good night. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.